Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you, sir.
It's our pleasure.
So, what are we going to discuss tonight?
Oh, today's topic is going to be leadership. I look at what's going on in our country and I say we have a crisis when it comes to leadership, when our leaders are promoting socialism, defunding the police, and systemic racism. I feel we have a crisis in our country when our leaders don't negotiate and compromise for the benefit of all of us. I feel we have a crisis in our country when our presidents are issuing executive orders instead of communicating with Congress and getting laws passed. We have a crisis.
Well, we keep becoming more and more divided. And I think it's politicians that want to have us divided.
That's true. I look at President Biden, and he's issued more executive orders than any president before him. He takes positions that are extremely on the left. He talks about defunding the police and systemic racism. He is dividing our country with this kind of talk and approach he's taking. However, I look at our former president, President Trump, who may have instituted some good policies, but again, his rhetoric divided our country. So where do we find good leaders? My thinking is let's take a quick look at our past leaders, our present leaders, and who may be our future leaders. There was a study done by 100 historians and biographers of presidents. They had 10 categories that they looked at, and they rated all of our presidents from Washington. I took a look at 10 of the presidents, the top 10 that they show, which were Lincoln, George Washington, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt, Eisenhower, Harry Truman, Thomas Jefferson, JFK, Ronald Reagan, and Lyndon Johnson. And they were rated in that order, with Lincoln being the top. And this survey has been done several times. And Lincoln and Washington always end up on the top. Others move on that scale. 8 of the 10 of these individuals had military experience. 3 of them were attorneys. 3 of them were governors. All of them had extensive, I shouldn't say all, 9 of the 10 had extensive political experience. The only one that did not was Eisenhower. Out of these leaders, who would you rate as number 1?
Oh, well, I think Lincoln always is going to hold the number 1 position. Who comes after that? You're probably right with Washington after that.
I think more recent that would affect my life more directly. I've always liked Truman. He said the buck stops here, and he did something, and he got it done.
See, I think Reagan.
Yeah.
I don't think my view is the definitive view. I don't know if you can really rate it. This is number 1. I would put him in a category of these are some of the best that we've had to put, because each individual lived at a different time, under different conditions, different social conditions. Okay, was he the man for the moment? And I think the ones you mentioned were the man for the moment.
And that is one of the categories. Who was the best leader in their times?
Right.
When you look at Lincoln from a crisis management standpoint, outstanding what he did during the Civil War. Another one that was outstanding during the war was FDR.
Yes.
And out of both of those, FDR was considered the best communicator. In his time, he had 2 crises that he dealt with, beginning with the Depression and then into World War II. So crisis management was a key thing that he was able to deal with.
I would like to hear from our listeners in the comment section who you think was one of our best leaders or the best leader, or put it, in a category top 10,
And why?
and why. Yeah.
So, where do you think our leaders today, who do you think in our country that is leading us is doing a good job?
I certainly don't think who is in office right now is a good leader.
Well, he's certainly making an attempt based on what he thinks is the best thing to do, and he's very, very liberal in his ideas. I don't necessarily agree with everything he's doing. He's spending a lot of money to get things going. That'll influence or impact my kids, my grandkids. Somebody's got to pay for this. Okay, if you do the numbers of something like $2 trillion divided with 350 million people, that comes out to about $5,400 debt. Each one of those 350 million people are going to acquire. And what do we get for this? $1,400. So you get a bill for $5,400 and you get a check for $1,400. My kids are paying that. That's not right. That's not fair.
What do you think about our latest president, Trump?
As far as what?
How did he do as a president?
I personally think that he did an awful lot in this country in terms of getting it together. Okay, put North Korea in his place. He, unlike most of the other presidents, says Israel, Jerusalem, our center's going to be there. All the other presidents said so. He did it. Yeah. Okay, you look at Assad. He said, Assad, quit nerve gassing women and children, or you're going to pay a price. Paid a price. He did something. Okay, leaders in the past don't do that. And of course, they don't want because they might lose the election. Trump didn't care. He wanted to get the job done. I'm going to do what's right. Tactfully or with the people? No, he didn't talk well. I don't care how you talk. Get the job done.
There's a lot of common sense in what he did.
Yes.
It was obvious what
Thank you.
should have been done, and nobody else was doing what was obvious.
You got
And
it.
he did it. His style, I felt, was terrible.
Well, one of the things they rated these presidents on was the ability to communicate or persuade.
Mm-hmm.
FDR was considered the best. All right. I thought that Obama would have been at the top of the list because he was such a good communicator, but he wasn't. I thought Reagan may have been selected as one of the best, and again, he wasn't. But he was very good at communicating.
Why do you think he wasn't?
Because I don't think he had to deal with a major crisis. Maybe he ended the Cold War, but he wasn't dealing with an imminent threat like the Civil War or World War II. He wasn't dealing with that. Truman was not considered an outstanding communicator, but Truman helped us end World War II. And you may disagree with his approach, dropping the bomb, but he got us out of it. And obviously people didn't care for him. Of course, he chose not to run, but I think he chose not to run again because he didn't think he had a chance of winning. He was a businessman. When you take a look at Theodore Roosevelt,
Mm-hmm.
Here's another good communicator. He was a military man. He had an extensive background in political life. Read the book, the Bully Pulpit.
Yes.
He spent time and allowed, of course, it was a different time. He allowed the reporters to come in and sit with him and have conversations. He allowed that, where that wouldn't happen today. He was a good leader. Take a look at Clinton. If we look at Clinton, I think his accomplishment was the fact that our economy was doing extremely well under his leadership.
Balanced budget.
Balanced budget. And that's something we need. He was a good communicator as
Oh,
well.
he could convince people. Look what he did with Monica. Convinced her. That's a sweet talking man.
That's a totally different issue than what we're considering today. Who else on that list of 10 do you feel was outstanding?
Well, we talked about Eisenhower. Kennedy was pretty good. He handled a Cuban Missile Crisis very tactfully, and that we were very, very close to a nuclear war, because it was said that had we put troops on Cuban soil, Castro would have pushed a button. He had the ability and authority.
And we were unaware of it. We were unaware of his ability at that point.
Yeah.
Well, what was interesting is when we found out about it, JFK had some advisors saying, let's just bomb the hell out of it. And he had other advisors that were saying, no, let's try to negotiate. And he negotiated us out of that. Yeah, we put a blockade up. Yes, we had to give up missiles that we had in place in Europe. And I forget whether it was Ukraine.
It was somewhere around there, but there were Titan missiles, which
It was
I
a lot of
heard were
outdated stuff, yeah.
really
we didn't
kinda
give
useless.
up. That was more for theater that we were
Well,
negotiating.
I
giving
understand.
something up.
It was a negotiating
Right.
tool. So that could have ended up in World War III.
and it was a smart move.
He had us real close.
He did an outstanding job there. I was surprised that he wasn't ranked high as a communicator.
Wasn't around long enough.
He wasn't.
And the Titan missile thing, God, you can get them on eBay nowadays. That's how useless they are.
And then we had, after him, we had LBJ.
Mm.
LBJ, his accomplishments were
Destroying the black community.
well, let's put it another way. I want to say the war on poverty, but it wasn't. It was a great society, I believe.
Yes.
And then civil rights movement. I think what he did with civil rights was outstanding.
He pushed it through.
He pushed it
Kennedy
through.
could not, but he did the job.
Well, he was outstanding in negotiating with Congress because he was in Congress so long. And that was one of the key elements. One of the categories in this list is how well do they work with Congress. Today, we don't work with Congress. I mean, if you look at Reagan and Tip O'Neill, he worked with them to accomplish things. He had one of the biggest tax cuts ever. He was also very good when it came to tearing down the wall. He ended the Cold War.
Yes.
His Star Wars
Outspent him.
outspent him. All right. To me, he was one of our times, one of our great leaders. So that's what we've got in the past. Who are we looking at today that could step up and be our next president? Who has the skills to work with Congress? Who has the skills to communicate to the people? Who's got the vision to put out there to say, this is where I want to go with our country?
See, I like looking at governors, and you see how they manage their state. And that holds a lot of weight. Not somebody that just came out of nowhere and has no real track record, where a governor can have a track record. You certainly wouldn't want to have anyone from Illinois. Any of our governors have just destroyed the state. It's gone down every year. No governor has been able to change it. Then you take somebody like DeSantis in Florida. Look what he's done for Florida.
Yeah. That's excellent point, because executive experience. That's where 9 out of these 10 had extensive political experience. So that's key. Yeah, military experience is good.
So DeSantis was in the military, so he's a leader. He's
I agree.
experience there.
Agree.
All right. I guess there is a list that was put out of potentials for 2024. And DeSantis is one of the guys on that list. Nikki Haley is on that list.
Very much.
And I'm only talking about the ones that stick out in my mind. Mike Pence is on the list. Trump is on the list, but he's way down at the bottom. So out of DeSantis, Haley, Pence, and maybe even Ted Cruz, who would you think out of those would be a good leader for us?
Nikki Haley. She was a governor, worked at the UN for us, and I've heard her speak. She's got her act together. And if you want to go down that route of women, Tulsi Gebhardt. She's a senator from Hawaii, 17 years in the military. I'd love to see two women running in 2024, Haley and Gebhardt. I've heard both of them speak on the ball.
I don't think the Democrats will have her, though.
Oh, I don't think so either. She's too good.
She's not far enough left for them, so they will never.
Well, I'm not familiar with her background. Is she an attorney? What is her background?
She is a senator, or was a senator, for Hawaii, and she has 17 years of experience in the military. So she has the background in that respect. Okay? That, to me, is coupled with her ability to communicate. And I've seen her go on some TV shows that are so-called like The View, and they really try to stick it to her and make her say something controversial. She wouldn't give in. She didn't compromise, but she was very controlled, very much in charge, and she wouldn't let that TV program.
Fox likes having her on. She's on Fox quite a bit.
What about Ted Cruz? He's a lawyer.
I consider him an opportunist.
Why do you say that?
Because when he was campaigning, and he won a primary, and then his next stop was the South. I remember him standing up there and he says, "I thank you, Jesus. I thank you, Jesus." I don't want to hear anything religious from a politician. Going to the South, let's talk about Jesus. There was also a situation where he was in the news where this woman refused to process paperwork for a couple that was gay, and she refused to do it. And he was there, sticking his face in the camera, supporting her. He didn't belong there, okay? There are other people that could have. Every time there's an opportunity for him to get his face on the camera, I don't like that. That's showmanship.
What about Mike Pence, our former vice president?
Too religious again, I think.
Yeah.
He wouldn't get it because he's too religious.
His view on the gay community, I just don't care for. He's got some religious, justifiable reasons for him to kind of go around it and stuff like that. Shut up, mind your own business. That's none of your business. You got a Constitution, got the Bill of Rights, make your judgments based on that. Don't give me all this, whatever your religion is, don't want to hear about it. We'll talk about that some other day if we're still on.
So, besides those are Republican politicians, let's call them. They have Republican businessmen. And this list I was surprised at. They've got Tucker Carlson on there. They've got Candace Owen on there.
Yes.
Donald Trump Jr. and Ivanka Trump.
Candace, I would like to see run in 8 years.
Yeah.
Not in 4, 8 years. She needs to get a little more experience, but I think she's got a great head on her shoulders.
But how is she going to get experience? She has no political experience
How did
at all.
Obama get experience? How did Jimmy Carter get experience? There isn't much there. What she has to do is win some primaries and get support from her party.
But your comments about Jimmy Carter,
Yeah.
his rating is very low as a president.
Yes.
Obama, although he is considered 12 on this list of all our presidents, I'm thinking the people that were rating them was influenced by the current times.
Yes.
Versus
He did nothing for the black community. He divided this country. He turned against the police. I mean, he did nothing to bring the country together. And when he was running, I was all for him. I thought he was going to, really bring the country together, and he never did that.
Yeah. And his foreign policy was terrible.
Foreign policy, yeah.
The only one who is more inappropriate or for not helping the country, and I'll get into that later, is Michelle Obama. What a wasted opportunity. But continue, please.
Okay. So, I mean, Donald Trump Jr., I've heard Ivanka Trump sounds like a very intelligent woman.
Is.
No experience. Who's not on the list that I'm looking at is Jared Kushner. I thought he did an outstanding job in foreign affairs for Trump. Nobody's talking about him.
I don't think he has the charisma. How often do you really see him in the limelight? You don't really see his personality. Does he have what it would take
I don't know.
to win people over?
I mean-
He's obviously very successful. But would he have what it takes to win an election?
Okay. Let's take a look at the liberal side, and I'll just point out again just a few that stick out in my mind is Stacey Abrams,
Terrible.
Pete Buttigieg, Andrew Cuomo, Kamala Harris, Amy Klobuchar, Gavin Nunes, and
He did a great job in his state. God.
J.B. Pritzker.
Is this list a joke?
Well, maybe the names I mentioned are a joke, but
Give me somebody who. Is there anyone on there that would be the least bit qualified?
Well,
what about Amy
Julie
Klobuchar?
Gebhardt would be the most qualified, but
Yeah.
she's not on the list.
But they won't put her. Yeah, she would be the most qualified, most
I'd vote for
sensible
her.
out of them.
Huh? Well, I asked from the liberal side, from a Democratic business executives, they have Oprah Winfrey and Andrew Yang. Now, Yang ran. He ran in the primaries. What are your thoughts about him?
Two left, and Oprah's a racist.
Yeah.
Some of the things she said, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Who else is on there? Give me somebody.
Well, they've got Cory Booker.
Don't tell me AOC, because
Yeah, Alexandria Ocasio.
how can she be on that list? I wouldn't trust her to make a drink for me.
I guess he has his opinions, huh?
Yeah, I guess so.
She's an idiot.
Okay.
I wouldn't call her an idiot. I would call her, she's got a very strong, what I consider racist opinion, a bigoted opinion. And she's not doing anything to help the black community. Really, she just, you look at her and say, oh, God, no, you don't need to say those. She's like that other one, what's her name? Politician, they're just dumping on her now. Not Washington.
Ilhan Omar?
No. The other one, I forget her name. The politician who would say we should be more aggressive in the Democratic Party. Three old men up here, we can't
Waters.
remember. Yeah, Maxine Walters.
Yeah,
Yes.
She's another moron.
Don't.
I don't want to talk. That's one I have an opinion about.
Yeah.
That's one that
Really?
when they went after Trump because of the January 6th situation, they should have gone after her for what she said.
Inciting?
Yeah.
Really?
Inciting.
I've
Yes.
never heard an intelligent thing come out of that woman's mouth.
So, one of my concerns, we looked at the past, we looked at the present, the future. I mean, I'm looking at what's being taught in our schools today. We're teaching critical race theory. We're teaching 1619 project information. We're scrubbing our textbooks to only show what's been happening in our country that was bad. They're just showing that we're a bad country instead of all the good things that we did as well. Sure, we've made mistakes. Every country has. So if we're doing this in our schools, what kind of leaders are going to come out of our schools?
I don't know. I can't answer that question. I mean, we'll just have to wait and see as time develops and how society change. How's this summer going to go? That'll determine. Biden's only been in office about 100 days. Let's see where we are at in a couple of years for the 22 elections. What's society going to say then? I think then we can maybe make a forecast. I can maybe make a forecast. Right near, I don't have a clue. Of course, that's true of many things in my life. But
So, all right, I looked at it from one aspect. I looked at it from the standpoint of who could be our president. Dan is going to take a look at leadership from a totally different angle. Dan?
Yes.
Share with us your thoughts.
And now for something completely different. I want to look at leaders, not necessarily in the government, but the biggest issue today facing this country is the problems we're having with race relations. So what I would like to do is look at the leaders or lack of leadership that we have in the black community. I'm going to start by looking at some of the ones we had originally and some of the ones we have today, and where do we go from here? Now, one of the most outstanding leaders I think we've had is someone like Martin Luther King. Let's look at some of his points that I think are relative. He's done a lot of things, but highlight some points of what I like to do. First of all, his biggest asset, I think, is he was not a politician. I think that speaks widely and very well of any individual who's not a politician and goes into public service to help people. Okay, he was a minister. He had religious beliefs and they were grounded, okay, in some good fundamental ideas. Another aspect, and I think this is very, very important, and I'll bring that up as we progress along, Martin Luther King was not a millionaire. Okay? His net worth at the time of his death was something like $250,000 adjusted for today's dollar value. Okay? Didn't make money off of this. Didn't make money off of this. Didn't make money off of this. 3 times I said it. Was he in jail? Sure was. He was in jail because of the marches he was involved in. Okay? That's why he was in jail for standing up. We see the videos of him, and maybe we can put those on here someday, of what he did at these marches and what he had to endure, how much time he spent in jail. That's what he did for his people. Okay, what else did he do? He died for a cause. He died for his people. That, to me, is a very strong leader. Yes?
I just want to interject. You said he was in jail
Yes.
for his protesting or his
Yes.
marching. We need to distinguish between that and what's happening today. They marched peacefully.
Yes.
They were attacked
Yes.
by the police. Today, we have protests that are riots.
Yes.
And these people are attacking the police. They're attacking our government.
Right.
So there's a major distinction. I just wanted to point that out.
And the thing is that it's fairly obvious when you look at some of these old film clips of him and what he did. Okay, he was a leader. He didn't let things get out of control. He had control of it. All right, that's a big asset. I'd like to look at another individual who was controversial at the time, but as time goes on, you have a tendency to become a little wiser. You have a tendency to look at things a little differently. And one of those individuals I like to talk about is a gentleman by the name of Malcolm X. At the time, he was very controversial. He was a bit more aggressive, but he never had a riot going on. He would have his people get together and he would tell them, stand up for yourself. Don't be pushed around. And he would do things like marches and go. I think there's one scene where he goes down to the hospital for one of the people that was beaten up. There were no riots, but the men were there who had respect for themselves. And he got the message across. He was a minister, like Martin Luther King. Was he in jail? Yeah, he was in jail for two different purposes. One, he did have a very bad upbringing. Oh, I shouldn't say a bad upbringing, a very unfortunate upbringing because of prejudice and bias and bigotry. And he ended up going down the wrong road. When he was in jail, he changed his life around. He became a member of the Islam Nation, and he did become a minister. Like Martin Luther King, he didn't make money off of this. His net worth was something like, I think, $150,000. These are figures I'm getting from the internet that talk about the net worth of these gentlemen. So you can check any of these facts or figures that I'm putting out there. I'm not making them up.
I'm sure people will.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure your views were very much appreciated on this. I want the people to look this up. What else did he do? Like Martin Luther King, he had his people first. He wanted them to succeed, and he was also killed for his beliefs, wasn't he? He was assassinated. So those were the leaders of the past. Now let's fast forward several decades and look at what we have today. One individual I'd like to talk about is Jesse Jackson. And I'd like to start with him because he was in the past. He was with Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King liked him. And he's also active today. Let's look at some of his criteria. Okay, he was very smart, went to college, played football, was going to go for his master's degree, but gave that up to work in the civil rights movement. Okay, he was, however, a politician. He was running for office, and he did try to go down that avenue. Okay, money. How much is he worth? According to figures I have here, his net worth is $9 million. Now, if any of you out there would like to tell me how a minister can get a net worth of $9 million, I would love to know, because I'm not a minister, and I could certainly get at least half that amount. That's what I'd like to do.
You're good at preaching, too.
Yes, I am. I'm thinking of maybe a part-time job. Just a little extra money on the side. So that's his net worth. Now, he needed the money in some cases because he had a wife to support. I think he had 5 kids. He had a mistress and a bastard daughter. She's getting, I think, $4,000 a month. Is Mr. Jackson for the black community? Yes, he is. He has been arrested on numerous occasions for various marches. But you got to question his motives. Are they completely for his people? Or maybe I'll help the people, but I need a little on the side. I don't like that. That just bothers me. He's got net worth of $9 million. The people he's supporting, how much money do they make a year? I don't think they make the kind of money that he's making. Another favorite of mine, I love this man so much. Every time I see him, I think of the old commercials on TV. Remember the greasy Wildwood hair cream he used to have? My God, he supported that company. I'm sure of it. Because there's just so much up there, unbelievable. Don't bring a match near his head. Still, all that oil will start on fire.
So what's your thoughts about the man?
Well, I'll tell you my thoughts about the man.
Tell us what you really think.
Tell us what I really think. Okay.
And who is the man?
Who is the man? It's Al Sharpton. I thought maybe you'd be able to figure it out.
And yes, and I was going to say Jackson is a real instigator.
Oh.
But he's nothing compared to Sharpton.
Uncle Al, yes. Uncle Al. Yeah, he's got a net worth of somewhere around, again, please check these figures, net worth of these individuals. It's a little hard to get the money at this point because there are little things hidden away. $5 million a year is what the organization he belongs to. It's National Action Network. That's on the internet also. And his salary at the time was $241 million.
$241 million?
I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm sounding like Biden.
I want him writing my checks.
Yeah, $241,000 a year, but it has been increased because of he got a pay raise to $412,000 a year and a $64,000 bonus. Okay.
Wasn't he also in many movies on TV?
Oh yeah, he was. He was on Boston Legal. I got some of these regular appearances on cable TV shows. MSN Today, Boston Legal. He was in a movie Malcolm X. Law and Order. Just want to make sure I get these right so no one says, you're making this up. It's all on the internet, folks. Look it up. Okay. So that's Mr. Sharpton. As far as jail time and things of that nature, I don't think he has any bastard children. That's easier to pronounce. I don't want to be derogatory. Yeah, illegitimate. I don't want to be derogatory in any way whatsoever. You know me. All right. So, in any event, yeah, and he's being paid by MSN, getting money there. That's good. That you can make a buck. I'm all for making a buck. But you know what? How are you doing that? Are you using this, your civil rights opinion as a springboard? How much are you helping your people? Is he giving that money to them? Somehow I think not.
In it for the money, I would say.
Oh, well,
and he has said some things that just amaze me that he gets away with it.
Yeah. And folks, you can look this up. He had comments about the Jewish community and things of this nature. It's all on the internet. One more last individual I would like to look at, and I have the least amount of information on this person because it seems to be fairly well hidden. And that is in the Black Lives Matter movement. You have a young lady by the name of Patricia, and I think her name is Patrice Colors. Okay, Black Lives Matters movement just recently bought several homes worth $1.2 million. Not one, several homes, and they're in the organization.
She co-founded.
Please.
What is her? Before she did that, what is her profession? What does she do?
She was in sociology. She was a professor. To the best of my knowledge, professors don't make that much money. I think she was getting at one time like $120,000 a year. Now, how you can afford a $1.2 million homes and several of them at $120,000 a year, please let me know. Please, I need to know how you're handling your money because I can't do it. Don't want to be too aggressive here. I have a picture of some of these. They will also be on the internet. You can look at them and see what their value is.
They've been in the news.
Okay, so you can look it up. Her homes. There's one more individual that I'd like to comment on in terms of leaders.
I just hope it's not me.
Or I should say lack of leaderships.
Then maybe it is me.
No. One of the biggest, most tragic waste of talent, I think, has to be put at the doorstep of Michelle Obama, an attorney, a black woman, wife of the President of the United States. I sit during election time and I hear ad after ad after ad about vote for my guy, Republican and Democrat. Hundreds of millions of dollars, and correct me if I'm wrong, have been spent on this. Why doesn't Michelle Obama stand up and say, put on some commercials, public service commercials to the black girls? I wouldn't mind at all. I'd sit through those commercials rather than some of the political commercials about, you can do it. I did it. Go to school. Colin Powell did a study or went to a meeting, and he says, if you want to get out of poverty, what do you have to do? Finish school, get a job, don't start a family until you're married. That'll get you out of poverty. And Michelle Obama, I'd just like to say, if she would spend less time trying to get her face on the cover of a magazine and get her face on a TV screen. Spend a couple of $100 million. Why not? You can get the money. You got it for the politicians. You got it for the Democratic National Committee. They've got to have it drowned in. I'm sorry. He doesn't like when I pound on the table. He gets all upset, but that's okay. Tell these girls, you can do this. It can be done. I did it. But no, that's sins of omission, in my opinion. Really tragic but she hasn't done anything. And I know I would encourage her to start.
She has written books. So,
Yeah,
She's
right.
tried some things.
I'm quite sure the girls in the ghetto. Oh, did you read Michelle's new book?
You have.
I don't think so.
There's got to be better ways to get to the kids.
Yeah,
Kids aren't reading the books.
yeah.
There's better ways. You have to.
So, gentlemen, how do we wrap this up?
Well, what I would like to do is the people who are listening to this, some of these people I have mentioned, some of these organizations like Black Lives Matters, call them up and ask them for the accounting. I'd like to see your figures. Would you have these figures published anywhere? How much is she getting paid out of this? Same with Al Sharpton. Okay, and it's a very slow start. And I guarantee you that you're not going to get much of a response. But we got to start somewhere, and that's where you come in. Call them. You want to call us? If you'd like to be here and tell us, for example, what I'd really like to see on the show is some of these people who had their businesses burned down in Kenosha. Has Black Lives Matters come over and says, here's a check. We're going to help rebuild your business because during the riots, we tore it down. We burned it up. Where's the money coming from? If you're a businessman or if you've been affected by this, give us a call. You want to come here and tell us your side of the story? Be our guest. Glad to have you. Gentlemen, comments?
I think we said enough.
I always
Probably too much.
Yeah, that's right. Are we running out of time?
All right, we're out of time. We'd like to see some comments in the comments section. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think we should cover. If you're interested in coming on the show, let us know. You can reach us by email at info@politicalcounterpoint.com. You can leave comments in the comment section. We're on Rumble. We're on Facebook and YouTube right now, and we will be expanding that. So let us know what you think. If you think the video is worthy of passing on, for heaven's sake, pass it on. Share it.
Ciao.
We'll see you next time. Thanks.